Welcome to Wine with Bill, and I'm Bill. Today, I am very lucky to have with me Sarah Green, the winemaker, and Lucy Neely, the operations manager of Neely Winery in Portola Valley. I've been there. I've had their wine. I'm going to say it again probably at the end of this show. Go there. Put it on your list. Ladies, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So let's make it official. What's your location, your address of Neely Wines, and do you have a website?
Indeed. We're located in Portola Valley on the lower part of Windy Hill. The street address would be 575 Portola Road, and our website is neelywine.com.
Perfect. Well, let's get started. Either you or both can fill us in here. Just give us a brief history of Neely Wines and its winemaking philosophy, as well as growing the grapes, obviously. Who wants to start?
Maybe you can give a little Neely wine history first.
Yeah. First and foremost, we get to be stewards of this amazing place. So a brief history will not include the 10,000 years that other humans have taken care of that place. We'll just start with the grapes. But there is all that history there that underlies our very place-based project. The first grapevines were planted on the property in 1980. And 1981 and 1982 was the original 10-acre planting. The site was chosen as a site for white wine because Windy Hill is a little low gap and in the ridgeline, and the maritime influence comes over, making it a nice site for white wine. The site was mostly just farmed, and the grapes were sold for about 20 years. The Neely family arrived in 1995. An additional 2 acres were planted in 1997, and that was our first Pinot Noir planting. The original 10 acres were 6 acres of Chardonnay and 4 acres of Gewürztraminer. We built the winery in 2000 and started making wine there in 2001. There was a man named Bob Varner who planted the first vines in 1980 and was also the winemaker once the winery was built. He retired in 2015, and that is when it moved even more solidly into being a family business. And we began with our second generation winemaker. The Gewürztraminer was converted to Pinot Noir, making for 6 acres of Pinot Noir, 6 acres of Chardonnay, and we began planting a new vineyard at a slightly different location in the valley bottom in 2017. And so that's now a 4-acre vineyard that has 2 acres of Chardonnay, 1 acre of Gruner Veltliner, and 1 acre of Cabernet. And we opened a tasting room 2 years ago. So it's been these sort of 20-year chapters unfolding of planting the grapes, then building the winery, and now opening a tasting room. And Sarah came on last year and is the best addition.
Well, that's great. Let's talk about you've talked about the grape, some of the grape varietals that are there and whatever. What's the ethos? What's the philosophy? What's the goals of how you make wine?
Sarah's our philosopher.
Harvest stuff.
Insofar as I would call it a philosophy, there are things that I aspire to every vintage, starting in the vineyard and in the winery. First of all, very site-driven winemaking. So each block has its specifications. There's data behind each block, but there's also just a feeling and a lot of history to each of the blocks. Or the vineyards that have been there since early 1980s have the most history, and then the young vineyards that Lucy was referring to are evolving, quickly. They're young vines still, so kind of responding to each of those blocks' needs individually and kind of fine-tuning it every year will be my vision in an ongoing manner. I would describe my winemaking as evolving all the time, and the vineyards are evolving each year, and I'm evolving alongside them. So, not very dogmatic, always open to new things, and knowing that you may try something one year and think it's a great idea and keep moving with it forward. And there'll be some things that you may experiment with and think, I don't know, maybe not so much. So that's always kind of an evolving project for me, and that's kind of how I approach a lot of the things that I make in addition to wine, like dinner. So it's an
Good.
evolving and dynamic process, and responsive to what I'm seeing, and curious always to kind of discover new and hidden phenomenon in the vineyard. So those are kind of that's the spirit of the winemaking, and knowing that each year is another attempt at making the best wine yet. And we're just lucky to get to have a new start each year, another shot.
Some of the winemakers that have been on here talk about old world versus new world winemaking. Some of them say less is more, meaning they don't intervene a lot. What's the philosophy or formula that Neely has?
It seems to me that everybody has a slightly different definition for what is and is not an intervention. So I wouldn't know to say exactly what constitutes an intervention versus not. I mean, some things obviously are. Picking the grapes is an intervention. But I would say in terms of the process, there's a lot of steps along the way, a lot of places where you can make choices about, not just when to pick, but how to treat your fermentation, how to handle temperature, how to handle the grapes or the juice while it's fermenting. And then over the course of the wine's élevage in the winery, in the blending decisions, those are all, each and every one of those is a decision you make along the way. I would describe my winemaking as, very low from like an additive standpoint. There's not a lot needed. And I don't, there's a big catalog of things you can use out there to facilitate. But I would say my process is pretty simple and would be recognizable to most traditional, old world, if you want to say that, winemaking. But I think there's value in being responsive and an open book to whether it's, old world or new world winemaking techniques. I'm certainly excited about the idea of innovation, whether it's in technique or in different ways of handling or responding to conditions in challenging vintages as much as in really easy, cruisy vintages. So, I'm always taking my cues from the colleagues that I really respect, the producers I really love, the regions that I admire. So I don't think of it so much as old world versus new world. I think we're all in it together. And but I would say I'm definitely trying new things all the time.
I think that's very accurate and appropriate. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And so Lucy was talking about some of the varietals that you have there. Did we miss anything? I think we got it. You had the Gruner.
Yes, it's mostly Pinot and Chardonnay.
But you did plant, at least when I was there, chatting with you, and near the very beautiful tasting room, there was a block of Cabernet. Has that been, whatever you call it, harvested, bottled, etc.?
Yeah, we just harvested it for the first time in 2024.
Last year, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
And I would add it's a block it's a 1 acre parcel that is 2/3 Cabernet Franc, 1/3 Cabernet Sauvignon. So it's both varieties are planted there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've got a full hand there of varietals, which is a great spectrum, spectrum.
We're excited for the cab to come online or to our customers in 2026.
Well, tell our viewers and listeners what's the dimensions of the property, how much acres and how much of it is devoted, what I'll call it, to grape growing, and what goes on in the other part.
Yeah, the property is over 200 acres, and topographically it's a ridge. So the main property boundaries are the two canyons on either side, and it goes from the valley bottom up to skyline. And only 16 acres are planted in grapes.
Okay.
So the vineyards and the winemaking and the winery operations are obviously a really important part of what happens there, and get the lion's share of attention and resource. But there's this other broader land base within which the winery project exists. And that is extremely important to us.
Well, you're in the Santa Cruz Mountains AVA, correct?
That's right.
And you have some elevation, meaning going a little higher at the highest point. You choose, or I'm going to say the best spot, but you've done your homework, and you know where the soil is, where the exposure is, et cetera, and is that an important factor as to where you put the vines, and et cetera?
Yes, that is all important, and also the land is quite steep overall. And
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, not that you can't plant on steep portions, but the vineyards are generally planted on the most gentle of the landscape, because otherwise it would be pretty unmanageable
Okay.
to try
well,
and
good.
farm on the steeper parts.
Good to know. Well, you brought some of your beautiful wines with you today. Take us through some here and tell us what are the special characteristics of the wine that relates to obviously the terroir, and our listeners and viewers love to have some food and wine pairing tips with each wine. So who can get us started here?
Okay, well, I can explain why I brought these four particular wines, and we can make up some food and wine pairings on the fly. So the four wines here kind of, I would say, represent sort of four of the projects underway, sort of big picture at Neely in terms of winemaking. So the first one there is the Leona Chardonnay, which is made from the youngest Chardonnay on the property. Okay. So we've talked about the vineyards that were established in the early 80s. This was only planted, the rootstock was planted in 2017, and these vines are still fairly young. They're just kind of entering into they're still coming into full maturity and full productivity. And so that wine really carries a youthful quality, just in terms of the way it smells and tastes, is really bright and has a lot of fruit expression, which is something we definitely find a lot of in young vineyards. And we're currently making it, one of the ways we're making it is in a stainless steel style with no barrel. And that's just, something that seems to be going well with the youthful quality of that young vineyard. So that's the Leona Chardonnay. Next to it is the B Block Chardonnay, which is from our Spring Ridge heritage blocks, as we sometimes refer to them, the kind of original 10-acre plantings of Chardonnay that are further up the hill. And so, not that we have a flagship wine, but in some ways I think the B Block is the closest we have to that. It's just like kind of been a part of that property as long as it's been making wine, and really carries the richness and dynamic character that a vineyard of almost 45 years old can do in a very special way. So it has a lot of brightness, but it also has kind of a lot of power and texture, which is where the vine age really shows itself. I brought the Hidden Block Pinot because that's the first Pinot that was planted that Lucy was referring to in 1997, which really kind of marks the transition of the Neely family taking over the property and starting to plant Pinot and kind of adding that now very important part of our winemaking. We make just about as many Pinots as Chardonnays. And then the last wine there is the Gruner Veltliner, the Block Verde as we call it, which is the closest block planted to the tasting room. There's only 2 Gruner Veltliner plantings in Santa Cruz Mountains, so we're one of them, just 1 acre of it. But it's a delicious wine, and it's an unusual variety for the region. And I think it's a good expression of the fact that we're very open to kind of the fun and creative side of what we do. And having a different variety from what you expect is one way that we express that.
Well, good. Well, we're going to take a short break here for some messages, and when we come back, you've stimulated my mind here to ask some more questions about each wine, and we'll continue our conversation. We'll be right back.
Thank you to the City of Montessorino for their continued support of KCAT Public Media. The City of Montessorino has enabled KCAT to inspire, educate, entertain, and inform our community through the magic of television and digital media for over 38 years. Thank you.
All right, we're back, and as I said, I've got some questions here that made me I won't call them guesswork, but maybe some clues. You described your first wine, the Chardonnay. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my wife would say Chardonnay goes with everything, but you said
I would agree
you
with
said
your
it's
wife.
very bright, youthful. I'm thinking seafood. I'm oysters. I mean, and there's a lot of chicken. I mean, it sounds pretty well called congenial, universal. Is that correct, or you guys fill me in some more?
Sarah is passionate about Chardonnay, so I'll let her answer that one.
Yes, there are very few things I would not enjoy Chardonnay with, so that I am certainly biased towards Chardonnay. But the first wine there in that lineup is the stainless steel Chardonnay, which does make it, I think, especially bright, and pairs especially well with bright food, seafood. I eat a lot of seafood, so definitely you're on the right track. Grilled seafood.
From what I've read and what I've heard and talked to people about, whether they be a winemaker or a sommelier at a restaurant or looking at the wine list, that seems to be, I don't know if trend is the right word, but it's the direction, quite frankly, where the consumer wants to go. Is that accurate?
Certainly you see more, and you're referring to stainless steel style.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's openness to that and curiosity around that. I think there's a bit of a hangover from a period where the most Chardonnay you would find had too much oak in it. Personally, I'm a great fan of judiciously, used new oak in any wine, and certainly in Chardonnay when it's done right and it meshes and marries with the wine, it can do so much for it. It can be a beautiful combination, but you could definitely go too far, and everyone kind of knows what that looks like or tastes like. So the second Chardonnay that we have with us does have a very limited amount of new oak stylistically. None of the wines have a lot of new oak on them, just as a matter of style and preference. But it does make it's not just the vine age there that makes the big difference. It's also having a little bit of a longer time, longer time aging in the barrel, and a very modest amount of new oak.
Would it change the pairings than the other Chardonnay, or would it be pretty consistent?
Again, because I consume Chardonnay with so many things, I would think it would go well with all the same things, but it's definitely a richer wine.
More body, yeah.
And so can play well in a kind of a richer food pairing. I don't know if you have a...
I agree with that assessment.
I wouldn't get in trouble, quite frankly, and it would be appropriate if I just drank the wine and didn't worry about the food.
That's always okay too.
All good, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for the go ahead.
Yeah, that's allowed.
Okay, and the one here, number 3. What's the essence of it? Why does it express the terroir of and what makes it so special, and why it makes it such a great wine to have?
Hidden Block is called Hidden Block because it is on a different aspect than the original 10-acre planting. Mm-hmm. So it does have, each of our blocks has a distinct terroir. We're running a terroir-driven project with, 2-acre blocks. But Hidden Block is pretty different, being on the different aspect. It's a little warmer than the other blocks. What would you say its essence is as a wine?
I think of it as being the most fruit driven.
Okay.
It's called Hidden Block partly because it's hidden, from the rest of the property, but in some ways the block itself is the most exposed in terms of sunshine, just the way it's, as Lucy's describing, its orientation. It's sort of bathed in sunshine the whole day. And that just makes it the fastest to the first to bud out, the fastest to ripen, and kind of the most given to a kind of bright fruit expression. So Pinot Noir is a variety that goes really well with all kinds of savory dishes, famously. And
I love it with salmon, quite frankly.
That's a famously great combination. And I think that the Pinot can have so many different sort of stylistic expressions. This is a particularly red fruit driven expression, partly because of that kind of that aspect and that topography for that block. So, but I still think of it as kind of fitting the bill for all the kind of classic Pinot Noir pairings that you might have in mind.
Good. And our final entry here in the
Gruner.
Displayed bottles. What's really good about it?
The Gruner Veltliner. Gruner means green, And one thing that we share in the tasting room is that this wine pairs nicely with green foods that can sometimes be hard to pair with, like asparagus. I've been really enjoying drinking it while I eat an artichoke lately. So, yeah.
Well, you save a trip to Austria.
Yes.
Airfare.
Nice
I
to
have to
save
say there's
food.
a very good restaurant just a few miles away. It's called Market, and it's Austrian food-driven theme. And it goes really well with Wiener Schnitzel and all that stuff.
I could see it cutting through the
and the soups,
Yeah.
and it cut through, and the noodles. Oh my, the spatzel. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very bright and sort of zippy variety, so it can be a nice thing to have with something richer to cut through it. But I also really like it with spicy food. I eat a lot of spicy food. So.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people, my family included, my children and the daughter-in-laws, they have a lot of spicy foods, meaning Asian, meaning
Noodle dishes.
Thai,
and, yeah.
Philippine. It's a great wine, at least from what they tell me, to go with all those ethnicities of food.
Yeah, I think it's the brightness it can be sort of almost like a quenching sensation when you're when you're scarfing down spicy
That's
noodles.
right. Well, it encourages that. Well, while we're talking about the wines, let's talk about where people can purchase it, whether it's at your winery, restaurants, shops. So give us I know you have a wine club, and obviously you tell us what the benefits of the wine club are and why people should be a member of it.
Well, it's super exciting to us to have a tasting room now and to be able to bring guests and the people that are drinking these wines into the experience of connecting with the vineyards and connecting with the place. So that's where we recommend, number one, that you would purchase our wines at the tasting room, because you just really get the fullest experience of what we are as a winery. And the benefit of being a wine club member, aside from discounts on all the wines and invitations to fun events we do, is ideally that relationship where you're getting to know us as a local winery, and we care about you and you care about us, and you're coming and visiting, and we're happy to see you and host you in the best way we can.
It sounds like they're kind of your family.
At least our friends.
In a way, yeah, at least your friends.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I like about buying it at the winery is I am absolutely certain that it hasn't been exposed to heat, to slight, the enemies of wine, so to speak. And it's going to be, not that a store can't do it or a restaurant, but I know that it's going to be 100% safe and high quality. Nothing bad about it.
That's true. Yeah,
so-
we do also have a lot of confidence in the stores and restaurants that we partner with, and that's been a very limited selection, just select local accounts. But we
Can you reveal that?
Sure, we're
What
at
stores
the,
or restaurants will your wines
local
be available?
Roberts Markets, Bianchini's,
Both of which have great wine
locations. Yeah, K&L. And restaurants like Flea Street and
Vino Locale in Palo Alto.
yeah, we're in an exciting moment right now where we are growing, which is different than a lot of what the wine industry is experiencing. But we're fortunate to be in an exciting, expansive moment, and part of that is developing our wholesale program and our placements at local restaurants and stores. So that's actually expanding quite a bit right now, and we're just landing in some exciting new local accounts like Taverna, Vino Locale.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's great. Well, let's go back to, we touched on it briefly, but let's get a little more specific. How did the harvest/crush of 2024 go? We had no fires, I don't believe.
It went so great.
It was
It was
great.
Sarah's.
None of the others
it was
crazy
Sarah's
stuff.
first vintage, and
At Neely.
at Neely. Luckily, her 13th
Oh
vintage,
gosh,
something
no,
like that.
more than that, but lady never tells.
Yeah. So it was a good vintage, largely due to Sarah's arrival and presence.
I was curious, is there unless in crazy years, was there an order that does the Chardonnay come in first? Or what's the first, and then what's the last one? I would presume the Cab, but I might be wrong.
You would be right about the Cab. The first thing to come in is our Rosé.
Okay.
Which is mostly made from the same hidden block Pinot same block of Pinot Noir that hidden block Pinot is made from. And so that block ripens the fastest, and so that's the best candidate for our Rosé. So that comes in early. And actually, the hidden Pinot Noir for the red wine comes in soon after that. I understand there's a long history before me of these blocks have kind of changed in the kind of the order that they ripen in. Things have moved around over the years, and any year, any block can perform a little faster or slower than you might anticipate. So there's certainly no hard and fast rule, but depending on where you are and what's going on, it's very common for Pinot Noir to start coming in before the Chardonnay, just because it can often start to ripen faster. So the hidden Pinot Noir came in, and then soon after that, in pretty quick succession, the Spring Ridge Chardonnays followed, along with the rest of the Pinot came after that, and the younger vines came kind of in the last couple weeks of harvest, and that's mainly because that tasting room, which is where those younger vines are planted, is a notably cooler spot than the ridgeline blocks that are further
okay.
up the elevation, and the kind of ridgelines locations for those blocks make for just a slightly different temperature dynamics, and so it kind of slows down the ripening of the younger blocks.
Are any of the varietals from the 2024 harvest/crush, are they in the bottle yet, or when will they be?
Yes, actually, both the first and last bottle in the lineup in front of you, the Leona Chardonnay, the stainless steel Chardonnay, was bottled in February, and then the last bottle in the lineup, the 2024, the Gruner is from the 24 vintage. So the Gruner and the stainless Chardonnay and the Rosé are bottled fairly early, and we had that released in the spring when we had our April release. And those are my first Neely wines in bottle since starting, so that was a very exciting moment for me. And later this year, we'll bottle the rest of the estate Chardonnay and Pinot, other than the things that are going to age over harvest and be bottled next year. So those things will all start to roll out over the course of the next year.
Well, keep me posted. Send me an email.
We will.
Final question, traditional question to all the winemakers and people who work in operations and the owners. What's the vision? What are the goals for Neely Wines in the next 5 years? Whether it be grapes, whether it be the facility, the infrastructure, the services that you provide, meaning events or whatever. What's out there on the horizon?
Yeah, so we have, three aspects of the operation, really: the farming, the winemaking, and the hospitality. So they're all united sort of by a common ethos and goal, but have their own distinct goals. Sarah, what's your winemaking vision?
Just to continue to elevate and refine the work that was going on and beautifully before me, and to kind of be to shepherd those vineyards and carry that forward, and kind of try to keep setting new goalposts. And I would really like to see Spring Ridge Vineyard be one that's really well regarded far beyond the Santa Cruz Mountains, as 45-year-old Chardonnay vineyards are not super common in California,
right,
and beyond.
it's special.
Even. Yeah. So it's kind of a goal of mine to really elevate it to, I believe, the stature that it deserves.
Yeah,
Great.
and that elevation will, take a new level of care for those vineyards, because at 45 years old, they just need a different level of care moving forward. And Sarah's really brought a lot to our vineyard operation as well. So it's pretty exciting times for the next 5 years. And then in terms of hospitality, we're feeling pretty ambitious, and we have a food program as part of a culinary program as part of our hospitality program, and we want to create, regionally a really exceptional hospitality experience that people, fly into SFO and they come straight to us.
Well, I give you, 4 stars, 5 stars. The vibe there is very good.
Definitely 5 stars,
And
Bill.
And
4.
It's my observation is you can buy the wine in a store, you can, online, whatever. But for me, the true litmus test is until I've been to the winery, I don't really connect with the winery. And you connect with it because the people. And you two are both very passionate, and your whole team just does an extraordinary job. And you know what? I'll just talk about wine. I think I'm going to go home and open a bottle. Cheers.
There you go. Cheers, Bill.
Cheers, Bill.
Thank
Nice
you for
to
being
chat
on the
with
show.
you.
That's it. That was easy, wasn't it?